If you were born in the 1940s, the 1950s, or the 1960s, I need you to watch this complete video before the close of this month because the Social Security Administration has rolled out updated regulations taking effect in 2026 that are directly reshaping how benefits are calculated, distributed, and adjusted for individuals in precisely these three birth generations. And the changes are not identical across all three groups. What applies to someone born in the 1940s differs from what applies to someone born in the 1950s and differs once more from someone born in the 1960s. That is exactly why the majority of general Social Security videos out there are failing to give you the full picture. This video is going to walk through what the new 2026 regulations mean specifically for your birth generation, what action each group must take before the relevant deadlines pass, and what happens to your monthly payment if you simply do nothing. Please pass this along to every person in your household or extended family who was born during any of these three generations before they miss something they cannot recover. I want to be completely transparent about what is genuinely at stake here. I have seen retirees born in the 1950s sitting on uncollected retroactive payments from the Social Security Fairness Act recalculation that have been in a suspended status for months simply because no one informed them that their direct deposit details needed to be confirmed before the funds could be released. I have seen individuals born in the 1960s unknowingly approaching a filing deadline that will permanently lock in a reduced benefit amount, not because they consciously chose to file early, but because they had no awareness that new regulations altered the notification procedure the SSA uses to alert them. And I have seen retirees born in the 1940s, people who have been in retirement for many years, miss a survivor benefit correction that would have added more than $300 per month to their payment for the remainder of their lives because the window to request that correction quietly closed while they were still waiting for someone to sit down and explain it to them. Every single one of these outcomes is entirely preventable. This video exists so that none of them happen to you. By the time this video ends, you are going to have a clear understanding of what the new 2026 Social Security rules mean for each of the three birth generations, along with the specific action each group needs to take without delay. I am going to walk through all three groups in a clear and organized way, but I want you to remain through the section addressing people born in the 1960s in particular, because that group is facing the most time-sensitive deadline of the three, and the one where failing to act produces the most permanent and irreversible consequences. If you were born in the 1960s, or you have a family member who was, that portion of this video alone justifies watching until the very end. Before we go through each group, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel and activate the bell notification. Social Security regulations are changing more frequently throughout 2026 than they have at any point in recent decades. When rules are revised, the SSA sends out a standardized form letter to whatever address is on file and moves forward without further explanation. Nobody calls to clarify what those changes mean for your particular birthday year, your specific benefit type, or your individual financial circumstances. The people who subscribe here do not get caught off guard. Subscribe now and let us work through all three groups. Let us start with the 1940s. If you were born in the 1940s, you are currently somewhere between 77 and 85 years old, and you have been receiving Social Security benefits for anywhere from 7 to 23 years, depending on when you originally filed your claim. The 2026 regulatory change that most directly affects your group involves survivor benefits and the correction process for long-term recipients whose benefit calculations contain historical errors originating from the early period of their claim. Here is the background context you need to understand. When seniors in this age group originally applied for Social Security, many of them doing so in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, the calculation systems the SSA relied upon had documented data entry and earnings record limitations that in certain cases caused benefits to be calculated using incomplete or marginally inaccurate earnings histories. The SSA has been aware of specific categories of these discrepancies for a number of years. What shifted in 2026 is that the agency put into place a new internal correction protocol that automatically flags accounts within this birth generation for a records review process. When a discrepancy is detected, a written notice is generated and sent to the recipient on file. Here is where the problem arises. Many retirees born in the 1940s have relocated since they originally submitted their claim, have not updated their mailing address with the SSA, or have family members overseeing their affairs who may not recognize a correction notice when it appears in the mailbox. The new protocol generates a 90-day response window beginning from the date the notice is formally issued. If no response is received within that window, the correction process is closed and the account is designated as reviewed with no change recorded. That means the error remains in place permanently and the benefit continues at the lower incorrect payment amount indefinitely going forward. Let me put real numbers on what that means. The earnings record discrepancies being identified in this review process are not trivial rounding errors. In documented cases, the monthly benefit difference between the incorrect amount being paid and the corrected amount ranges from $40 to over $300 per month, depending on the nature of the original error and how long the recipient has been collecting. For a retiree in their early 80s who may reasonably expect another 10 to 15 years of collecting benefits, a $300 monthly correction adds between $36,000 and $54,000 to their total lifetime benefit. That money has been calculated. It exists in the system as a pending correction, and it disappears permanently if the 90-day window closes without a response. There is also a specific additional concern for widows and widowers in this birth generation. The survivor benefit entitlement for a surviving spouse can be up to 100% of what the deceased spouse was receiving. And in many cases, that amount is meaningfully higher than what the surviving spouse receives on their own record. For retirees born in the 1940s who are widowed and have been collecting on their own record for years without ever being prompted to compare the two amounts, the 2026 review protocol offers a formal opportunity to surface exactly this kind of discrepancy. But again, only if the notice reaches you, and only if you respond within the window. Let me give you a concrete sense of what this comparison looks like in practice. A widow born in 1948 who is currently 77 years old has been collecting her own Social Security retirement benefit of $1,400 per month. Her late husband passed away several years ago and had been receiving a Social Security benefit of $2,200 per month at the time of his death. Under the survivor benefit rules, she is entitled to collect up to 100% of what he was receiving, which is $2,200. Her own benefit of $1,400 is $800 per month less than her survivor benefit entitlement. If she has been on her own record for several years since his death without anyone comparing the two amounts, she has been receiving $800 less per month than she was entitled to for potentially dozens of months. The cumulative underpayment is significant, and going forward, she should be receiving $800 more per month. The 2026 earnings review protocol can surface this discrepancy, but only if the notice reaches her current address and she responds within the 90-day window. This is not a rare scenario. The Social Security Administration has historically not been proactive about automatically switching survivors to the higher benefit without a direct request. The responsibility has been on the surviving spouse to know to ask. Many widows and widowers in this birth generation, particularly those who filed during a period when SSA offices were heavily backlogged or were managing the logistical realities of bereavement without much outside support, never had anyone sit down with them and walk through the comparison. The 2026 review protocol changes the dynamic by making the comparison an active part of the review process rather than something the recipient has to initiate entirely on their own. But it still requires that the notice be received and the response submitted within the window. If you were born in the 1940s, the steps you need to take immediately are twofold. First, log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov or contact the SSA directly at 1-800-772-1213 and verify that your current mailing address and all contact details on file are accurate and fully up to date. Second, ask the representative explicitly whether your account has been flagged under the 2026 Earnings Record Review Protocol and whether any correction notice has already been generated and sent. If a notice has been issued and you were never aware of it, request that it be reissued to your current address and confirm the start date of your 90-day response window from that newly issued date. Do not assume your information on file is current. Do not assume that receiving no correspondence means no correction is pending. The SSA's records are based on what was submitted when you first filed, which for many people in this generation was done on paper at a local office without the digital verification systems that exist today. A single phone call could uncover a benefit increase that has been sitting inside the system, waiting for a response that never arrived. Now, let us move to the 1950s. If you were born in the 1950s, you are currently somewhere between 66 and 75 years old, which means you are either freshly retired, actively navigating Social Security decisions in real time right now, or moving toward the critical window where the choices you make over the next 12 to 24 months will permanently define your monthly benefit payment for the rest of your life. The 2026 regulatory change that most directly affects people born in the 1950s is the revised implementation of the Social Security Fairness Act. Specifically, the acceleration of retroactive payment processing and benefit recalculation for recipients in this birth generation who were affected by the windfall elimination provision or the government pension offset. Here's the context. If at any point in your working career you were employed by a state or local government, a public school system, a federal agency prior to 1984, or any employer that did not withhold Social Security taxes from your paycheck, and you are currently collecting Social Security, your benefit may have been reduced by the WP or the GO for an extended period of time. The Social Security Fairness Act, signed into law in January 2025, permanently eliminated both of these provisions. The SSA has been working through recalculations and distributing retroactive payments to those who were affected, but the 2026 update introduced a new verification step specifically for recipients in this birth generation. Before the SSA releases a recalculated benefit amount or a retroactive payment to someone born in the 1950s, they are now required to confirm current direct deposit details directly with the recipient themselves. What this means in practice is that if you fall into this group and your direct deposit information has been updated at any point during the past 3 years, or if you simply are not certain that what the SSA has on file reflects your current banking situation, your recalculated benefit and any retroactive funds you are owed may be sitting in a suspended status right now, waiting on a verification step that nobody has reached out to tell you needs to be completed. Let me make the dollar amounts concrete because this is not theoretical money. Retroactive payments for individuals in this birth generation who were subject to both the WEP and the GO are averaging somewhere between $2,400 and $8,500, depending on how long the reduction was applied and the size of the original benefit. In cases where the reduction was in place for many years and the original benefit was substantial, the retroactive payment can exceed $10,000. And going forward, the monthly benefit increase from removing these reductions adds anywhere from $150 to over $1,000 per month permanently for the rest of your life. That money belongs to you. It has been calculated. It is in the system, but it will not be released until the verification step is completed. And the only way to complete that step is to initiate the contact yourself because the SSA is not going to call you proactively to push this through. Let me give you a concrete sense of what the Fairness Act retroactive payment looks like for a real person in this birth generation. Picture a retired teacher born in 1958 who spent 32 years working in a state public school system that had its own pension program and did not withhold Social Security taxes. She also worked in the private sector for 12 years at various points in her career, accumulating Social Security credits. When she retired, her Social Security benefit was reduced by the windfall elimination provision because she was receiving a government pension from the school system. The reduction under WEP brought her monthly Social Security benefit down from a projected $940 to approximately $620, a difference of $320 per month. Over the 5 years she was subject to that reduction, the cumulative impact was approximately $19,200 in reduced payments. Under the Social Security Fairness Act, the WEP reduction is eliminated. Her benefit is recalculated to the correct amount, and she is owed the retroactive amount covering the period from January 2024, which is when the law's retroactivity begins through the date of the recalculation. That retroactive payment is likely to be in the range of $7 to $10,000 depending on the exact timing of the recalculation and the number of months covered. But here is the scenario that is playing out for thousands of people in exactly this situation. The recalculation has been completed internally by the SSA. The retroactive payment has been calculated. The amount has been confirmed, and then the system generates the verification step requiring confirmation of current direct deposit details before releasing the funds. Because this generation has been particularly mobile during the retirement transition period, changing banks or updating direct deposit information as they moved or refinanced or consolidated accounts, a significant percentage of cases are stalling at exactly this step. The money is sitting in a processing queue, confirmed and calculated, waiting on a verification call that the recipient does not know they need to make. There is also a second issue for people born in the 1950s that deserves attention beyond the Fairness Act. This generation is the one most actively making claiming decisions right now, and the 2026 regulations have also introduced updated guidance on how SSA representatives must present claiming options to applicants in this age range. Specifically, the updated guidance requires that before processing a new claim submitted by someone in this birth generation, the SSA representative must document that the applicant has been provided with a written comparison of their projected benefit at their full retirement age versus age 70. For people born between 1955 and 1959, the full retirement age is between 66 years and 2 months and 66 years and 10 months, depending on the specific birth year. Claiming before that age results in a permanent reduction in your monthly benefit that compounds over time. Waiting until 70 adds approximately 8% per year to your benefit above full retirement age. The difference between claiming at 62 versus waiting until 70 for someone with a $2,000 full retirement age benefit can be as much as $1,216 per month permanently, which accumulates to nearly $290,000 over a 20-year retirement. If you are in this birth generation and you have not yet filed, make absolutely certain you are receiving this comparative information in writing before you sign anything. If you have filed recently and you feel the options were not clearly presented to you, you may have recourse. Call 1-800-77-21213 and ask specifically about your options given the date of your application. Now, let us get into the 1960s, which is the section I promised you not to skip. If you were born in the 1960s, you are currently somewhere between 56 and 65 years old, and the 2026 regulatory change affecting your group carries the most time-sensitive and permanently consequential implications of all three birth generations covered in this video. This is the section I told you to stay for. People born in the 1960s are either approaching Social Security eligibility for the first time or have only very recently become eligible. And the 2026 regulations introduced a new pre-filing notification requirement that changes the manner and timing by which the SSA must inform you of your full range of benefit options before your application is processed. Under the previous process, a substantial number of seniors in this age group filed for Social Security without ever being presented with a clear side-by-side breakdown showing what their benefit would look like at 62 versus full retirement age versus 70, and without receiving a transparent explanation of the permanent reduction that locking in an early claim produces. The new 2026 regulation requires SSA representatives to deliver this comparison in written form before processing any new claim submitted by someone born in the 1960s. Here is why this carries such urgency right now. Your full retirement age if you were born in 1960 or any year after that is 67. Filing at 62 permanently cuts your benefit by 30%. Waiting until age 70 increases it by 24% above your full retirement age amount. The gap between filing at 62 versus holding out until 70 for someone whose full retirement age benefit is $2,000 per month is $1,080 every single month permanently for the remainder of their life. Spread across 20 years, that difference accumulates to $259,200, and yet more than half of Americans in this age group file before reaching their full retirement age. Not because filing early is the wrong call for everyone. There are circumstances where it makes complete sense, but the overwhelming majority of early filers never had those numbers presented to them in clear, straightforward terms before they signed their paperwork. They were told their benefit would be reduced. They were not shown what the reduction meant in concrete monthly dollars over the likely span of their retirement, Let me walk through the numbers one more time in a way that makes the comparison impossible to misread because I want you to have these figures memorized before you ever walk into an SSA office. If your projected full retirement age benefit is $2,000 per month, filing at 62 gives you $1,400 per month, a reduction of $600 per month that is permanent and applies to every check you receive for the rest of your life. Waiting until your full retirement age of 67 gives you the full $2,000. Waiting until 70 gives you $2,480 per month, 24% above the full retirement age amount, also permanent. The decision you make about when to file is among the most financially consequential decisions of your entire retirement, and it cannot be undone once it is made. The 2026 regulations have also introduced a 30-day reconsideration period for new claims submitted by people born in the 1960s. This means that if you submitted a Social Security application within the past 30 days and you belong to this birth generation, you currently have a 30-day window running from your original application date to withdraw that application at absolutely no cost, reconsider the age at which you are claiming, and resubmit at a later date to lock in a permanently higher benefit amount. This is separate and distinct from the standard 12-month SSA 521 withdrawal process. It applies specifically to new applicants in this birth generation under the 2026 rule, and it expires precisely 30 days from your application date. If you filed recently and you have any reservations whatsoever about the claiming age you selected, call 1-800-772-1213 today and ask about the new filer reconsideration window before your 30-day period runs out. This is one of the few truly reversible decisions in the entire Social Security system, but only within the specific window that applies to you, and only if you act before that window closes. There is also a longer-term planning consideration for people in this birth generation that the 2026 guidance specifically addresses, which is the interaction between Social Security claiming age and Medicare enrollment. Most people born in the 1960s will become eligible for Medicare at 65, and the coordination between when you claim Social Security and when you enroll in Medicare has implications that many people in this age group have not fully thought through. If you claim Social Security before 65, your Medicare Part B premiums will be automatically deducted from your Social Security check when you become eligible for Medicare. If you have not yet claimed Social Security when you turn 65, you will need to enroll in Medicare separately and pay your Part B premium directly, either through a direct payment arrangement or through the quarterly billing Medicare uses for beneficiaries who are not receiving Social Security. Understanding this coordination before you make your claiming decision is part of making that decision. Well, additionally, if your income is above certain thresholds, Medicare applies the IRMAA surcharge, the income-related monthly adjustment amount, which adds between $74 and over $400 per month per person to your Part B premium. For people born in the 1960s who are still working and earning above those thresholds, claiming Social Security while still employed can create a situation where you are receiving a permanently reduced Social Security benefit while also paying an elevated Medicare premium, a combination that significantly underperforms the alternative of waiting both to claim and to step down from higher income work before turning 65. Understanding the full picture of how claiming age, Medicare timing, and IRMAA interact is essential before you make any of these decisions. And the 2026 guidance specifically requires SSA representatives to cover Medicare coordination as part of the pre-filing notification for applicants in this birth generation. Let me now give you the consolidated action summary for all three groups, because the most important thing is that you leave this video knowing exactly what to do next. If you were born in the 1940s, call 1-800-772-1213 today and verify that your mailing address on file is current. Then ask whether your account has been flagged under the 2026 Earnings Record Review Protocol and whether any correction notice has already been generated and sent. A 90-day response window may already be actively counting down on a correction notice you never received. If a notice was issued to an old address, request that it be reissued and confirm the new start date of your response window. Do not let a mailing address problem cost you a benefit correction that has already been calculated in your favor. If you were born in the 1950s, Call that same number and ask specifically about any pending WP or GPO recalculation tied to your account, and confirm that your direct deposit details are current and have been verified. Retroactive payments averaging between $2,400 and $8,500, and in some cases significantly more, may be sitting in a processing queue waiting solely on your confirmation call to move forward. If you have not yet filed for Social Security and you are in this birth generation, make certain you receive the written comparison of your benefit options at different claiming ages before you sign any application. That comparison is now required to be provided, but required and actually received are two different things, and confirming that it has been provided in a form you can keep and review is your responsibility. If you were born in the 1960s, internalize this clearly. Filing for Social Security at 62 versus waiting until 70 represents a permanent monthly difference of as much as $1,080. That is not a one-time difference. That is every single month for the rest of your life. If you submitted a new application within the past 30 days, the new filer reconsideration window gives you a genuine opportunity to revisit that decision before it becomes permanent and irreversible. Call 1-800-772-1213 today and ask about that window. If you have not yet filed, make sure you understand the Medicare coordination implications of your claiming decision in addition to the pure benefit comparison. And regardless of where you are in the process, log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov and verify that your earnings record is accurate for every year you worked. Each missed or inaccurate year reduces your eventual benefit by approximately $100 per month permanently. And correcting errors now while documentation still exists is significantly easier than trying to reconstruct records years down the line. 3 birth generations, 3 distinct 2026 regulatory changes, 3 separate actions that need to happen now before deadlines expire and available options disappear permanently. Let me give you one final piece of practical guidance that applies to all 3 generations equally. Before I wrap up, because it is the step most people know they should take and consistently do not, log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov and pull up your full earnings record. This is a list of every year you worked and how much was reported to the SSA by your employers. Compare it against your own records, old tax returns, W-2 forms if you still have them, pay stubs from the years you can access. The SSA has been recording payroll data since your very first job, and that data came from your employers, which means there was opportunity for errors in every year. A single year with an incorrect or missing earnings figure reduces your monthly benefit by approximately $100 permanently. For someone who worked through the 1970s and 1980s when payroll processing was done manually by human workers entering numbers on paper, the odds that at least 1 year is slightly off are not trivial. Finding and correcting those errors before you claim or requesting a correction and benefit recalculation, even if you have already claimed, is one of the highest value actions available to anyone in all 3 of these birth generations. The correction process is free. The documentation requirements are manageable if records still exist, and the benefit increase from a corrected earnings record is permanent for the rest of your retirement. The number for all 3 groups is 1-800-772-1213. Log in to ssa.gov to review your account details directly. Please share this video right now with every member of your family born in the 1940s, 1950s, or 1960s because each of these 3 groups has something specific and genuinely urgent to act on this year. Subscribe to this channel so you are never the last to learn about a Social Security update that has a direct impact on your monthly payment. The rules changed in 2026. Now you know exactly what you need to do about